Welcome to the Lovecars on the Grid podcast, your global motorsport roundup with me, Tiff, Needell and Paul Woodman.
Welcome to Lovecars on the Grid, your global motorsport podcast. This week we're a day late. My apologies. I was in Munich.
Yeah, why was that? Yes, you're in Munich. I saw you on Twitter or something. Yeah, drinking away these motor shows. I know. Okay, so we all have to wait till you came home. But yeah, all right, we're back.
We had a technical hitch because Phil, who puts these videos on, he was moving house as well. So it was one of those weekends, one of those days. But we got a load to cover, loads of amazing racing all weekend. There was Formula 1, Formula 2, Formula 3, plus the Porsches from Monza, Moto GP from Spain, IndyCar, NASCAR, seems like every weekend for them, but Tiff will go over that, no doubt, with his usual enthusiasm. But we're going to start off with some news. It's all kicking off this week, but some sad news to kick off this show with Paul Bird Motorsport in the world of motorbikes, British superbikes specifically, certainly recently. Sadly passed away at the age of 56 after a short illness. 56.
A real jovial, huge character. He ran a team in Moto GP, I think, of Needell. He was most famous for superbikes. So I think his teams won many championships, and one of those life and souls of the paddock. So a real shame to have lost him so early.
Really, really sad. And I saw lots of lovely tributes to Paul, as you would imagine. It looks like he was a very well-respected and a good friend to lots of people on the grid, all over the place. So our condolences to Paul and his family. Right, news. It always seems awful going into an enthusiastic piece of news when you've just said something really tragic. Yeah. But kicking off with the news, what have you got? You've got a bit of interesting news with Carlos Sainz.
Well, just today. Well, Carlos Sainz had his watch nicked, but just quickly today, the biggest news, which this is why we delayed it a day, because we knew that the results of the cost cap 2022 were going to come out today. And all 10 teams have legally complied with a cost cap. So that's a big relief. So there won't be any bitterness going on. Flip it up. And then the other big thing of the news on the pages was Carlos Sainz having his watch nicked. Amazing. I mean, they all ran after him, car chases, and Sainz, I think, was involved with catching one of them, and the police caught another and another. So they all caught all three of them running around.
Let's put this into perspective. There's a Richard Mille watch, a Richard Mille sponsor, Ferrari, and it's worth €500,000 or dollars.
No, I've got 235. I was about to say it's ridiculous. He deserves to have it nicked. I mean, why walk around with £250,000 pounds or more? I know. I'm banging my microphone. Sorry, sound people. My microphone's hitting.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, why walk around with that
because
sort of money on your wrist?
They're sponsored by him.
I know it's not his money. I know.
Give us a watch. Give us a couple of watches. We'll be straight down.
Give us the money. Forget the watch. Give us the money.
Absolutely.
So that was the main news. Otherwise, it was quite quiet. Not
well,
much.
You say that. I've got quite a bit of news kicking off. There's the first ever off-road hydrogen series has been announced. It's going to be a FIA World Championship in 2026, and your friends of Extreme E behind that.
Extreme H. It'll be more. It'll just be hydrogen beach buggies bouncing around instead of electric beach buggies bouncing around.
But I want to whiz through a couple of other bits of news. Of course, there's a big bit of a hot topic over the weekend. Just before the Monza was a bombshell that Lewis Hamilton, same sort of driving standard, really. Lewis Hamilton announced that Max has never had teammates as strong as him. So he's had Jenson, Fernando.
Bit of a bitch.
Yeah,
he's had 3 world champions, but it's true. Factually, it's true. You know, he said he had 3 world champions to go against, whereas Max has not had any. So it's technically true, but it was a bit of an unnecessary jibe. And then what Toto said? Oh, winning 10 out of 10 is only good for Wikipedia. There is a bit of bitching going on, which I'm sure Yerry will point it out on our comments below. So, won't you, Yerry?
Toto did a Christian
and I agree
Horner.
with you.
He did a Christian Horner. He shouldn't rise to it. He should do the complete opposite. Say congratulations.
Congratulations, brilliant.
Congratulate him on this. This will never be repeated ever again. It should never be repeated. And if he had a decent teammate, it wouldn't have even ever happened. But there you go. So another bit of news: Liam Lawson. So if there is anything that goes on at Red Bull, so if Perez finally goes, or if there's an emergency like Ricardo with his wrist with AlphaTauri, so Liam Lawson will get the Red Bull drive, and Isaac Hadjar would get the AlphaTauri.
Oh, really?
So that's quite nice.
Has a talented French kid, all these Red Bull juniors. There's no good being a Red Bull junior if you never get a chance to be a Red Bull senior. But that's good. Yeah, good. Hadjar, good.
Couple other tiny quick bits of news. Damon Hill wrote something brilliant on Twitter. So back in the 90s, they didn't have pit lane speed limits. So back in the 90s, he said that he would go into his pit was the first pit at Monza. By the time he got out of the pit lane at Monza, he was doing 150 miles an hour. That is just so funny. Look back now, that's just crazy.
Imagine being a paddock in the end box, just before he left the pits, when someone go past 150 miles an hour. That would stop you hanging around in the pit lane, wouldn't it?
It certainly would. And the final bit of news that I've got, Tiff, is I think we found the next, what do they call it these days? Not Formula Women's Series. It's not W Series.
There isn't a W Series. The FIA Academy was a new academy candidate.
Well, I think we found someone, because it's my daughter's birthday. My beautiful. I don't know where she got her brains and her talent and everything from, because she is just the most amazing daughter. She's 17 this weekend. We went go-karting, indoor track, team sport, Bristol. Brilliant. Thanks for looking after us. They didn't give us anything free, by the way. This isn't a shout out, but thanks for looking after us anyway. And it's about a 41-second lap. My daughter has been 3 times before over a period of a few years at birthday parties. And I think I could drive. I think I'm quite fast. I'm always the fastest there on paper. She was less than 3/10 slower than me on a lap.
You've begun it. You've started now. It'll cost you £300,000 for the first year's karting. It'll cost you £1 million for Formula 4. It'll cost you £2 million for Formula 3.
I can't afford that. No, I couldn't afford it.
So she's not going to be an FIA Academy girl after all.
Well, if anyone wants to sponsor her,
yes, that is a good point. But as we've failed to find any sponsorship for this podcast so far, I suppose £500,000. It's a bit unlikely. Go for a normal run through the worldwide results and races. I just want to highlight. Now, I know Yerry won't like this because he's the Dutch guy that gets upset because he thinks we're complete biased racists. But we are a British podcast, and it was the most brilliant weekend for British drivers.
Wasn't it ever?
And it just developed. In Formula 3, we had a first, second, and a third with Johnny Edgar winning. We'll do the big details later. Then when we had Formula 2 with Ollie Behrman, everyone who also win. Then we had the Porsche Supercup when Harry King won. And then it went down to Spain for motorbike racing. We'll talk about it again later. Jake Dixon won Moto 2. Then right the way over in America, doing the Indy NXT, we had Foster winning. So unbelievable.
It was really good. And it's great to see some of these young guns coming through and clearly mixing up with the best of them. We got
3.5 Grand Prix drivers and all this talent below. So the future is bright for British drivers all over the place.
Yes.
Just trying to find my bits and stuff and who else. Yeah, that was all. Yes, it was just amazing race. Louis Foster, wasn't it? I was trying to say his first name. So good run. So going to Monza, and let's start with the Formula 3 race. I mean, it was great entertainment. And these Brits, they qualified. Johnny Edgar qualified 4th, Zach O'Sullivan 7th, and Taylor Barnard 10th. And those came through to win the race. And I'm so pleased for Johnny Edgar. He's this kid that was he was a karting superstar. He won the Italian Formula 4 championship. It looked like he was going to go straight to the top. Then he got this Crohn's disease. It's very debilitating, sapped all his energy, missed out 3 races. And he really had a tough time, but he stuck to the task. Hasn't even been on the podium yet, but drove like a maestro to win. I do feel sorry for it. I didn't make a note of his name. The guy was on pole position. Goethe, the kid that's the son of the Goethe family. Rothko, the Rothko money. He was on pole position for the main race. I think he hasn't won a race yet. And he'd come through after a green flag lap, coming through the grid to the pole position, and the throttle broke. And had to push him off. So I do feel sorry about it. Might have helped the British 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, but that's motor racing, isn't it? Sometimes you need a little bit of luck.
Yeah, you do indeed. So well done. Frank Colapino won the sprint race the day before reverse grid, but we know that just proves he's the 12th best driver in Formula 3. I know that's a bit harsh. It's the way I look at it. He's now won 4 Formula 3 races, all reverse grid. And apparently this time, in fact, he qualified outside the top 12, but due to a lot of, there were loads of penalties going around for teams cheating with tyres and tyres pressures, and I didn't bother to read it all. So I think Colapinto actually qualified lower than 12th, but managed to get pole position thanks to the reverse grid and won again. So he's now won 4 Formula 3 races, but no what I would call main events. Then the Formula 2 race, I mean, Ollie Bearman, I mean, he just gets better and better, in my opinion. He qualified second behind the championship, Théo Pourchaire, who's well out in the lead, looking to almost clinch the championship. He only had one person chasing him, which was Bearman's teammate, Frédéric Vesti. But I mean, Bearman, he got out-dragged by Pourchaire down to turn 1. He just thought about it all. This is what he's, and he turned right in the chicane, he backed off, made sure he cut back left in that silly first chicane, got better traction out of it, drove by Théo Pourchaire down to the second chicane, and was never headed. I mean, he had about 3 safety car restarts, which he controlled like a professional.
We'll come on to that maybe. We'll come on to that maybe, but it just seems that if any car's in the gravel, wherever it is, not even in the gravel, it's a safety car, and I just think it's a bit too much.
Yeah. I'll just mention back into that Formula 3. Actually, I've jumped forward to Formula 2 because I should praise Zach O'Sullivan by finishing second, got to second in the Formula 3 Championship. That was the last round, of course. Formula 3's over.
Yeah.
F2's got one more. So congratulations, Zach O'Sullivan, when he finished second, got enough points to go second in the championship, which had already been won because Zach didn't get pole position, however, by Gabriel Bortoleto. Congratulations to him. A Brazilian driver who's actually an Alonso protege. But I don't think he's the next Ayrton Senna. I'm sorry, Argentinian fans, Brazilian fans.
Hang on. Brazilian, Argentinian, Spanish we got there in one sentence.
Brazilian. And it was solid spectacle. He won 2 rounds early on. And since then, he's just gathered points, which is clever. It's Alonso styled. That's Alonso coaching, but it's Alonso that is under his wing. But I don't think he's going to be the next Senna. But Formula 2, I do think Ollie Bearman is going to be the next British star to join Formula 1. So he just controlled the race. I mean, even though right at the end, Pourchaire was trying to get back to him, although Pourchaire was counting his points a bit. But Frédéric Vesti, and this was controversial, the only guy that could have caught Pourchaire with 2 rounds to go. He'd already had the problem at Zandvoort. Remember when both his wheels came off? Remember that story from Zandvoort when in the pit stop? So that lost him points because Pourchaire was in the barrier at Zandvoort. So, and this time, I mean, I think it was the first lap coming out of that second chicane. Roman Stanek had a bit of a side-by-side with someone for 3rd place. Vesti pulled to the right to go up to the first Lesmo corner. Of course, the way up the inside, and Stanek just diagonally across the road, put Vesti on the grass, Vesti in the barriers, out of the race, no points at all, championship lost. And, they give out these 5-second penalties, causing an incident. And I think it's got to be stronger when it has an effect. I know that's the harsh thing, because then you've got to discuss, what effect did it have? But to put a guy out of a potential championship winning position and just getting 5 seconds, I don't think that's enough. 5 seconds initially, and then later on, after the race, maybe, hold on a minute, that's a 1-race ban. Forget your 5 seconds. You've got to stop this moving people off the road.
I was going to mention this later because I want to just wrap up with the Caterham winners as well. But there was a couple of guys that went up. They're doing one race. So the final race of the season, and it's exactly the same as you just mentioned. Final race of the season, there's 2 people, Charlie and Fred. They're within a point or 2 points of each other. And you've got people that aren't anything to do with it, racing like proper, diving down the inside. And because there's no consequences for them if they hit them off or something. I think something stronger needs to happen as well, because you can't you can't do that. It's unfair.
We'll be talking about it again when we come to the Grand Prix. 2 incidents going down to that second chicane. We'll mention that.
It's horrible. That chicane's horrible. Horrible.
Yeah, it's a horrible chicane.
Now I see it as a racing driver. It's horrible because all you do go down the inside. Chance your luck as much as you possibly can. Hopefully, you make it stick with the brakes, and then when you're alongside someone, you can't turn in. It's horrible.
That's the first one. Yeah, that's the first chicane.
Sorry,
the second chicane. Yeah. Anyway, just going back for me. So Théo Pourchaire finished 3rd in the end. Ayuma Iwasa came from 15th to finish 2nd, going on the alternate strategy, the classic Formula 2, one way or the other. And Porsche almost has enough points to save the champions. It has to wait about 4 weeks, or whatever it is, because they have to wait right until Abu Dhabi, isn't it, at the end of the year? But he's pretty much wrapped up the Formula 2 championship. Then we had the Porsche race, and what a tense race that was. Harry King on pole position. But his teammate, Bastien Bous, has virtually had the championship tied up. He's got so many points lead that he was almost done it. He just had to finish in the top 10, I think, was sufficient. And he had an awful first few laps, and Bastian Boos was out of the points. So now, if the Dutch guy, Larry ten Voorde, could win the race, he would be the champion. But Bastian Boos' teammate, Harry King, was the one right in front of him. I'm sure Yerry won't be happy with this because he'll think Harry King was dirty driving. But instead, Harry King, under this most intense pressure, with, and to be fair to Larry ten Voorde, he never gave him the push up the bumper. It was clean racing. And Harry King, everywhere he moved, he blocked fairly and he won the race. It was a brilliant, tense motor race. But anyway, Sebastian Boos won the championship, and Harry King winning the race won his team the championship. So they were all, the pink team were very happy indeed. Really tense race, and Harry King a star of the future.
They were all tense. Porsche was tense. Formula 3 was really tense.
Good.
I know they had lots of safety cars.
Safety car. But Formula 1 then, the Grand Prix, we had a dry Grand Prix with no safety cars, I think. And a really, really entertaining Grand Prix.
Take Max out of it. Well, Max
was in it. The first 10 laps, because Carlos Sainz really was the driver of the day. But the Red Bulls were still the quickest car, but not by that much. And Max hounded Carlos, and again he didn't make any silly moves. He knew that he saw Sainz was beginning to slip. The rear grip was going, and the team kept on saying the radio as well, didn't he? It's right, his rear tires are going, don't panic. But eventually, Carlos made a little mistake, outbraked himself, and Max said, thank you very much, went through. We then had Perez, who had a very good weekend, was still cocked up on free practice 2 or 3. He still managed to give himself a harder weekend than he should have by putting it in the gravel and missing a session and qualifying 5th. But he did eventually, for the change, come through to take the second place, which he should always start, second and finish second. It's ridiculous that he keeps on cocking up.
Look, I'm harsh with Perez. I'm sure he's a lovely man, and massive respect to what he's achieved in his career.
Yeah, we're letting him off this
weekend, but he shouldn't be in that seat.
We're letting him off this weekend. He did get the second place. Then we had this brilliant Ferrari entertainment with Sainz and Leclerc.
Amazing.
Just probably good.
Probably the best battle of the season so far.
Yeah.
And it was Ferrari against Ferrari. You couldn't fit anything between their wheels. It was just proper.
And then we had Alex Albon holding off the 2 McLarens.
How good is Albon?
We had George Russell. Then we had the George Russell-Perez fight. That was going on initially before Perez got by George. That was one good battle. Then we had Albon in his quick in a straight line Williams holding off the 2 McLarens with Oscar Piastri getting ahead of Lando, and Lando doing the old classic radio, I think I'm quicker than Oscar. Lando obviously not happy to see another McLaren in front of him. Then we had the McLarens clash when Piastri came out of the pit lanes. Lando pitted first for the tyre change, and Oscar pitted second, came out, cold tyres, and he should have let Lando go. I think that was a bit... I think Oscar was, I've led him all blooming Grand Prix, And I expect Lando was thinking about Ricciardo stealing the Monza win 3 or 4 years ago, which must still hurt him when Ricciardo had such an awful season that he came good just for Monza. So that was a bit of a clash. McLaren boss unhappy in the press afterwards that because Piastri just couldn't slow down enough. He'd come alongside, but on colder tyres. They always say cold tyres, which annoys me. They're not cold; they're just colder.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So the McLaren, so that was a good dive. Then we had Lewis coming back. He went on the alternate strategy, started on the white sidewalls, and then he pitted for the yellows. Then he did his usual mode on the radio. How many laps we're going to do? Man, we can't do it. Man, we got it wrong. Man, oh, man, I'm on the wrong tyres. But of course, the team aren't stupid. And gradually, the yellow tyres were working towards the end of the race. He caught up all these bunches, had to get through the McLarens and then get towards Alex. And during this, he put Oscar off. Now, Yerry, you'll be happy to hear, Yerry, that was completely Lewis's fault. And Lewis apologised for it. See that, Yerry? He did apologise for it. So good on Lewis for owning up. But it ruined Oscar's race completely. So again, Lewis got 5 seconds, this standard penalty, which didn't affect him at all. Because by the time he cleared Albon, he easily got the 5 seconds on the softer tyre and claimed 6th position. So it didn't affect his race at all. And in fact, this had happened early in the race when Leclerc was defending to Perez. same corner, and it's happened many, many, many times before. So down into the second chicane, it's a sort of downhill braking. It always lures you in. It's a nasty braking area. And so often you see they're in the middle of the road, you're alongside, you're a bit ahead of the car that you're overtaking. So the overtake is pretty much done. And then this looking through the corner that, every driver does. And as you look, I don't know why that corner, and you just move and you don't know you're doing it. It's not a deliberate. But, Perez went on the grass when Leclerc did it to him. I mean, it was a, cloud of dust. He didn't actually touch because Perez moved over. But I'm sorry, even if you apologise, even if, I'm sorry, you've got to make people know. Give him one race ban. The next time he's going down there.
No, not a one race ban.
Why not? Well, some points, it's got to be, because it happens at that corner time and time again. So until you highlight the fact that, and everybody, going down to that second chicane, leave more room on your right. Don't
racing's racing. I don't want people to think I can't go for that because I'm going to get.
No, they've got it. They've already had it. It's a subconscious. Both of them. It wasn't a deliberate block. They'd already done it. They were a quarter of a car length ahead.
Yep.
They pretty much had the overtake done, but they've carelessly wandered. So I'm sorry.
Lewis got a bit of a record with doing it with rookies, hasn't he? Really, with ruining their races. He's done that with poor old Albon. Don't forget that.
Put Albon off twice, didn't he, when he's about to win a Grand Prix?
But I just touched on Albon. We were just saying about Albon. He was magnificent again. He gets so much out of that car. Yeah. I think he is the only person out of the pairings. Logan Sargent's the only person not to finish above his teammate all season. So which would make sense.
But Logan had a good race. Logan nerves shattered after Zandvoort. Finished about 12th or 13th. I forget what it was now. But at least he kept it going. So he'd probably feel a bit happier. Come on, Face ID, work. Where was Logan? He finished 13th. Something. He was good. And the other rookie, Liam Lawson, awesome Lawson. What's a new name? We'll call him Awesome Lawson. Really steady drive to finish 11th, wasn't he?
I really like him. I really like his temperament. Really I like how he comes across. Yeah, good kid.
Yuki, of course, had been ahead of him. Yuki's engine blew up on the green flag lap. So Yuki qualified in the top 10. So we're still ahead of Lawson. So we're time to see how quick Lawson can become. But
he's had a bizarre couple of circuits to do it. He's had the fastest circuit with an average speed of 160 miles an hour around there in a Formula 1 car. Just nuts.
Yeah, it was a simple circuit. I mean, he's done Formula 2. Monza is a simple circuit.
Okay. All right.
There's not much. There's no real ballsy corner. I mean, the Sky chicanes are very good and quick. Those stupid tight chicanes, curb hopping.
It's not about the corners with Monza. It's about the braking that is quite significant, I think.
But anyway, really entertaining Grand Prix. And congratulations to Max for his 10 out of 10. So great. I mean, they got the best driver in the best car. Well, one of the best drivers, not the best driver, Yerry. One of the best drivers.
Can I do a Toto? Congratulations to Max Verstappen on this. Incredible achievement that will never be matched. But you've only done it because you had an awful teammate the whole way through. But congratulations anyway. That's a Toto. Congratulations. I think they call that a shit sandwich, a turd sandwich, where you say something nice and then you put the nasty bit in, and
sort of thing you do with Checo and Max every week.
I'm not a fan of either of them.
I know, we know.
He's a phenomenal
Moto GP. The bikers were out down. As I've said, Jake Dixon had an amazing. He was on pole, dropped back to third, came through grinning and these great toothy grin.
Did you
and
see
then
him
on the podium? Dedicated the race to Paul. But he's such a class guy. He dedicated to Paul Bird.
And he made a little comment about Marc Marquez as well. And it was really lovely.
So that was a fabulous route. Scott Ogden, a hopeful young star. He qualified 15th again. He could have qualified higher. And I've said to you, he doesn't get his elbows out, but he always makes bad starts. And I was watching him. I picked him out on the screen coming down to turn 1. And he just got mobbed by about 3. He was 21st at the end of the first lap. And he eventually ended up in the second bunch. The trouble is, you've got to go with the front 14 or 12. It was amazing. It was a classic Barcelona race, the Catalan Grand Prix, but on the Barcelona track. And the front bunch was about 12 of them at it all the time. And the second bunch, Scott was actually getting his elbows out. I think he almost led the second bunch. And then he got a penalty for being on the green paint to the last lap. He finished 15th and then dropped to 16th. But the winner out the front was this incredible Colombian, this 17-year-old Colombian. His name I haven't written down, so I'm never going to remember it. Look at the results. He's a real superstar in the making. 17 and just, a pack of 12 riders. Just amazing. What those kids do is terrifying me.
How can he do that? It's the age of 17. Even if he's nearly 18, it's just nuts.
Then Moto GP, well, I suppose it was the highest drama of the weekend, really, because awful accident down at turn 1. First of all, 4 riders went down at the right-hand bit of turn 1. So 4 bikes in the gravel, and then just as Francesco Bagnaia, the championship leader, pole position, turn into the left half. It's the first time you've got the left side of your tyres, getting a bit of heat into them. And he just snapped the tail end high side in front of the entire pack. And everybody's held their breath, And unfortunately, Brad Binder on the KTM couldn't avoid running over just over his legs. Really terrifying moment. But it looks like there are no fractures. There's lots of obviously muscle damage. And he might even be out this coming weekend down in Italy. But
these boys are built of some strong stuff. The Colombian rider, of course, was Yoni Hernandez.
There we go.
Yeah.
Look out for that name. I should try to remember it. We championed Pedro Acosta for a year, didn't we? A couple of years ago. He's now a star of Moto2, leading the championship. We'll now start championing Yoni.
Yoni Hernandez.
Good. Otherwise, it's all Spanish all the time. So we need to up because the Grand Prix was a Spanish one too. Both Catalans, both local boys. This Aprilia bike, which is getting stronger and stronger. They won the sprint race on the Saturday. A beautiful looking bike. It's got real proper front wings now. I mean, this is the controversy of MotoGP, which is growing and growing because the Japanese don't want to adopt these. The Japanese want their bikes to develop road bike improvements. So you're not going to put wings on your road bikes. Well, you probably will now. You'll start doing it. But Alex Espargaro took the lead from Maverick Vinales, his teammate, about 3/4 way through the race. An emotional 1-2 win. And it was a Pramac Ducati of Jorge Martin was third. And he's now chasing the points on his satellite Ducati. So it depends. Bagnaia's got quite a big lead. There's still only about halfway through the season. There's about 9 or 10 races left. But yeah, an amazing Aprilia. They just dominated the race. Looking after your tyres. It's getting more and more like Formula One. They were zooming in.
Please don't do that. We want loads of overtaking and
Look at Vinales' tyres, more shredded than Espargaro's tyre, and it's all about the tyres, and we're always tired of listening about tyres. That's why we watch MotoGP, so we're not talking about blooming tyres.
Yeah. Didn't you see British Superbike's top man, Stuart Higgs, on the weekend as well? Did you bump into him?
Yeah, bumped him. Stuart was up at the Concours d'Elegance. Yeah. I was there with Kahuna. I was a guest of Kahuna, the new way to buy your tyres.
Can't they sponsor us? We'll say that every week.
Wait for it. I think in time. They're developing this new company. So lots of entertainment down in Barcelona, and then a quick whisk across the Atlantic for the 2 American weekends.
Let's go through these quickly because do people do you want loads of time on?
I'm going to be quick. I cut it down as much as I can. But when you've got a British driver winning the Indy NXT
race, absolutely amazing,
and the very popular Jamie Chadwick qualifying only 16th out of the 17 cars, but finishing 6th because of that stupid circuit. It's a stupid. Why IndyCar go there? IndyCar, please answer. Someone tell me. No crowd, hardly any crowd. A rubbish track full of lots and lots of corners, one long straight, no overtaking. And the long straight leads into stupid, fast right-left chicane, where in almost every race I've ever seen, there's a pile up into turn 1, which the NXT boys managed to do in fine style, with about 6 of them wiped out. So the rest of the race only had half the field left and a lot of limping people surviving. A ridiculous race. The main IndyCar race, Graham Rahal on pole position, but Alex Palou, again, I mean, just a class driver. He's now claimed the title. He won the race, claimed the championship with 1 round left to go at Laguna Seca. So you won't hear about IndyCar much longer if you're bored with my IndyCar stories. But again, it was a strategy race because all the front boys started the soft tyres, which wore out, and they tried to make them run too long. Whereas Palou started on the harder tyre, stayed out for longer, got a lead. So when all the other boys changed tyres, they were miles behind. So of course, Palau is still this big controversy by saying he's not going to race for McLaren next year. This week in the courts, that should be news. Zach Brown's taking him to high. You're going to sue him for millions. And, he spent millions on him. Running a Formula One car isn't cheap. And when you take the boy testing 3 weekends and then put him in FP1 road to America Grand Prix last year, I don't know how he's going to defend it. But and so Ganassi said, no contract yet. At the end of having won the championship, he's going to be in my car next year. But I don't think it's a contract yet. So wait to see that. Callum Ilott, our best, had his best qualifying 8th, but on lap 1, there was someone off in front of him at the tight right-hand hairpin. Loads of dust, because they don't have runoff areas in an IndyCar. Ilott went off, but loads of dust. And then, who was it? Romain Grosjean, hidden in the dust, went to the back of Ilott, so that ruined both their races. So Ilott did finish 15th. Grosjean, a sack from Andretti, being dropped by Andretti is the main news in the IndyCar as well. Had a bad weekend in qualifying, was seen ranting and raving in his pit box because they put him out in the wrong part of the track. Obviously not happy at all. But rumoured to have a drive next year in another team whose name I've forgotten. We'll tell you next week. Tom Blomqvist, the British driver, had his first run. He had his second run. He had one race and he had one corner. He got taken out, but he qualified 27th, finished 24th. NASCAR, brilliant racing. NASCAR, even though you weren't watching, it was round this Darlington 400. It's one of the big main events of the NASCAR year. It's the most famous race, 400 laps around the 1 1/3 mile race called track. But it's a track which lends to following the wall. So from the turn in all the way around, 150 miles an hour, 140 miles an hour, you run as close to that wall as you can. And of course, nobody masters that more than Kyle Larson, the 5, who led a lot of the way, won the race from Tyler Reddick, who's also the second best man at running so close. I mean, they're hitting the wall at 150. They're just this far, bounce. So pretty impressive. And of course, that was the first of the knockout decision, the playoffs, as they call it. So Larson now directly goes through to the last 12, which has got 2 more races to score points in. So it's a bunch of 3 races that drop 4 more. So by winning, you're straight through. So there's 2 more rounds before they drop it to 12 drivers. So there you have it. That was short and sweet.
It was very good. Really it was actually very interesting.
It was an entertaining race. But that stupid track, why are they going to... Portland, of course, was that track where Formula E went. They went 7 wide down the straight, all trying to lift off because... the joys of motorsport.
Say about 7 wide where they were trying to lift off. I'm going right back to Formula 1 now, but where they have to do a minimum lap time of 1:41 or whatever it was because of
qualifying laps.
Because it was ridiculous in the qualifying. So hopefully that will get a bit stricter. But they didn't enforce a penalty on Sergio, the 2 Ferrari boys, wasn't it? Because they were both over. But anyway.
They were. Yeah, they were slightly under in the segment. Yeah. Thankfully.
Right. My favourite motorsport in the world to report on is Caterham. I love it.
You think our listeners are bored with my IndyCar and NASCAR, and you keep on coming up. You're flipping Caterham's at the end of every lap.
7 champions just to announce because the Caterham Racing.
7. But don't leave just now, everybody, because I'll tell you what's coming this weekend. We've got some good stuff. I'll be telling you what's coming this weekend, but we'll go
Academy.
Back to
there's
weekend.
2 groups in Academy Green and White. Nick Hyton and Dan Neal. So congratulations to you. If you remember Callum McIntyre from Overdrive, he was the media driver. He was absolutely killing it at the beginning. So
where did he finish?
2nd. And Megan Bruce was not far behind as the highest female for some years. So Megan, we look forward to seeing you next year, maybe a championship. Ben Timmons absolutely dominated the road sport category. He won it with a race weekend to spare. Freddie Chiddick, so sad this weekend because Fred and Charlie Lowe went into the 270s within a point or 2 of each other, and Charlie had a gear lever snap when he's in first position. I think it's always first, second with Fred, and often is first and second with Fred and Charlie. So he had an awful weekend. So Fred pipped him in the championship. Jack Sales in the 310, and then you got the Pro-Am in the Fast Boys. Lewis Thompson won that, and in the amateur, Paul Donkin won that. But I have to announce the people's champion of this season was, of course, our mucker, Joe Priday. He didn't have the best of seasons. He had a lot of bad luck, but he's our people's champion. So congratulations to all the real champions, and Joe, of course, and Mark, and all the boys, everyone on the grid, not just my mates, everyone on the grid. Now, coming up, I know one thing is coming up next weekend because I'm not here. I'm doing the Three Peaks Challenge, but you've got Revival. I'm gutted. Why did we put Three Peaks Challenge on Revival?
What? What's the Three Peaks Challenge?
Oh, don't even talk to me about it. I'm already coming out in hot sweats. It's you climb the 3 highest mountains in the UK, in mainland UK, within 24 hours. Yeah.
Goodwood Revival, the biggest weekend.
What are you driving? What are you driving?
I'm in all sorts. I'm in one of the slowest cars in the St Mary's 2-1 driver Tour Cup. I'm in a Jowett Javelin, the oldest car in the race.
Oh, so the oldest man in the race. The oldest
car. It's a rear engine flat 4. I think it's got about 4 horsepower.
Yeah.
And it's a real characterful car. So I'm really looking forward to driving that in the St Mary's on the Saturday. Then I'm in a lightweight E-Type on the Sunday, the Tourist Trophy, sharing with John Spears. And then at the last almost race of the day on Sunday, I'm in the Sussex Trophy in a Lister Costin, which I've only driven a few laps for, not a Nobly. It's the same chassis underneath, but it's got that smooth Costin aerodynamic bodywork. So really looking forward to good race.
Any chance of podiums?
Oh, the Costin, there's the Lotus 15s that are very quick. The E-Type, you can't beat the Cobra. The Cobra's got so much grunt now. And the Jowett Javelin's got no chance at all.
Our listeners know that if you're in a lower power car, you're just not going to do it. But when people are there and the commentators saying, "Ooh, Tiff's not very fast these days, is he?" And you just think,
they'll love the Jowett Javelin. It's almost as old as me, so it's going to be really lovely. But then around the world, I mean, flipping hell. Last round of IndyCar at Laguna Seca, that incredibly spectacular track with that corkscrew where the cars dive down, so that should be entertaining. World Endurance Championship, Fuji Speedway, one of the famous World Sports Car Championship circuits. Of course, also in the NXT at Laguna Seca with Chadwick and Foster. Yep. World Rally Championship in Greece, the old Acropolis. God, Moto GP, Misano, waiting to see whether they're all fit and healthy after the thing at the San Marino circuit. World Superbikes at Magny-Cours, that very little race track now, really good track. I never raced them, everyone did, so this is a great track. Also Britain, apart from Goodwood's British GT, around the fabulous Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit. So you haven't been lucky enough to get a Goodwood ticket, go to Brands Hatch, watch the British GT and its support races. And NASCAR, of course, the second of the 3 rounds to knock out 4 drivers at the Kansas Speedway. So wherever you are in the world, there's lots of bikes, cars and everything to watch. I will be at Goodwood. Cricket on Thursday, qualifying Friday, racing Saturday, racing Sunday.
I'll be at Ben
and we get a heat wave. And we get a heat wave. Just when I want to lie in the sun. I'm going to be racing 3 races,
sweating.
3 qualifying sessions.
Thanks.
I'm not fit.
To everybody for joining us. We really appreciate it and look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks a lot.
Cheers.
Bye.